Welcome back to the lunch table, boys and girls. Food for thought. I'm Nico. Blitz, Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, YouTube. You can basically hear my voice everywhere, but mainly on YouTube, man. We want to run those numbers up for sure. My next guest, I want to shout out Mackenzie Webster for hooking this one up. He has a very interesting name, Bensbeendead.
Yes, it's yeah.
What's poppin'?
What's going on, man? How we doing? Yeah, it took a little while after I started with the name just Ben Thompson to realize that, you know, when you search that, 800 different results come up. So I was like, maybe let's make it something a little weirder that I'm the only person who comes up.
Yeah.
You know.
But then where does the Ben Dead come from?
I was just saying it one day. I was like, Ben's been dead. Like, it felt like a weird little, like, they all kind of sound the same. So I was like, Ben's been dead. And then I was just like, I'll just put it together.
I get you because it's a good, like, 3-name chant,
yeah,
I guess
right?
you could
Ben's
say.
been dead.
It's like MVP.
Yeah, I had a show
MVP.
last night in Phoenix, and some guy's like, he was like heckling me. He's like, when was your funeral, man? When was your funeral? I'm like, oh, fucking hilarious.
Well, you know, he kind of got you there.
Yeah.
Even the records that you have, like, they kind of have to do with death in a way, like Exoskeleton, for example.
Yeah.
And then Bounty. Like, I imagine, like, the Wild West where somebody's, like, trying to hunt somebody for a bounty. I'm just like, is he doing everything on purpose? Because they have to deal with death in some way, shape, or form.
I've always had a huge, like, health anxiety thing. I always get in my head about just, like, death and dying and, like, you know, ever since I was a little kid. So I've always, like, everything I do is weirdly revolved around that, even though I don't want it to be.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's, like, when I'm writing songs, like, that's where my mind goes is, like, you know, I mean, Bounty is, like, about, like, you know, in this life, am I just fucking, like, not at a point where I'm able to do anything anymore, or am I, like, too inexperienced to do anything, and it's just, like, this weird, almost, like, purgatory feeling.
Yeah, how old are you?
23.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
So, I mean, hopefully I'm not going to die anytime soon.
bro, like, I'm 26, and I still get that mad anxiety about it. Like, I don't know if what I'm doing is, like, the right thing, but then it feels like I'm doing the right thing.
I'll give it till 30, and then maybe I'll, you know, reevaluate, but, yeah.
I was with my girlfriend the other day, and then there was, like, a 30 on 30.
Yeah.
30 on 30 commercial that just, like, popped up on TV, and I was like, well, I have about 4 years till I can accomplish that.
Yeah. I'm like, I got 4 years, and then if I'm not there, we got to have some conversations.
Exactly, right? But, you know, even at, like, 23, that's still a very young age. When did you want to start music?
I would say when I first finished high school, I started just, like, messing around with, like, I started rapping first. Well, I actually started, like, doing production first, because I've always hated my voice. But actually, I just learned that the human brain is trained to hate our own voices. Yeah. So, like, when we hear it completely differently than other people. Like, if somebody plays it back to you, you're like, what the fuck? That sucks. But, yeah, so I started producing when I got out of high school, and then in my first year of college, I was just messing around, and then I started rapping a little bit, and it took me probably, like, 2 years after that before I started, like, actually singing.
That's a while.
Yeah, and it started out, I would, like, you know, I wasn't bad, but I would hit a lot of wrong notes and stuff, and I would pretend it was for, like, the art. I'd be like, oh, no, it's, like, an artistic choice, but really didn't have auto-tune and didn't, you know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was just messing around.
Hey, but you probably had some people be like, oh, okay, I see it then.
Yeah, you know, if I fucking went on Twitter and berated people into saying that it was artsy, then eventually people would be like, oh, okay, I kind of get it.
Yeah.
But, you know, my sister, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, is like one of the best singers I've ever heard. So she could always be like, "No, you're just off key."
Yeah. Got you. Do you have like a musical family?
No,
or
it's really just her. She was the one who came up doing music. So she was taking vocal lessons and piano and guitar since she was a kid. And that's kind of what like inspired me in the beginning was just watching her do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you guys have any music together?
We do. We have a group called Emerald that we just put out an album, I just want to say 1.5 years ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, like, I did the production, and then we trade vocals back and forth. Yeah, if you got time, check that out.
No, of course, I'll check that out, man, because I'm listening to your sound, and I hate using this word, but it's very vibey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I hate that word, but that's the only way other people can relate to.
Yeah,
like,
you're like, okay, I see what the genre is, because, like, you wouldn't, listen to like a punk rock band and be like, it's super vibey, people wouldn't be like, oh, I know what you mean. Like, I understand what you're saying when you say that. And like it relates to like any artist that you're like, oh yeah, they're pretty vibey. You can kind of already in your head you get an idea.
It could be like Coachella-y type.
Yeah.
Who are you listening to?
Oh man,
that like inspires you.
Well, like musically inspired, I listen to a lot of. It doesn't really come through a lot, but I listen to a lot of Bon Iver. Yeah,
that's a name I don't normally hear.
That
on here, at least.
That doesn't come through a lot, but I have a lot of stuff like in my vault that's very just like experimental, weird, folk music. But with like auto tune and all these fucking vocal
that sounds
filters.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's fun. I did one show one time where I just said, you know what, I'm gonna just do this show and not do the music that I have out and just do all this like weird vault stuff. And I like sat down and I like, I had everybody like I lit incense. It was real weird, but
how'd that turn out?
People seemed to like it. I was like, I definitely can't do this for every show because people were like, oh, I was like kind of falling asleep.
It might just be too weird happening over and over again.
So I'm like, maybe I'll do one of those like every year or something and just like invite my friends. But yeah, so Bon Iver. But like my sound, I listen to a lot of Black Bear.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of Black Bear. Childish Gambino is like a huge influence for me. It's not, you can't really hear the sound of it.
I think like in the sense of like Childish Gambino being extremely experimental.
Just like not really feeling like you have to do one specific thing. And because I'm so early in this, I feel like I still haven't made something where I'm like, if I put out a crazy record tomorrow that's like totally different from my sound, I feel like people would be like, oh well, we don't really know what he is yet,
But honestly, I think that's the key, though. I was just at the studio with my boy Della, and I was saying to him, like, I think it's the experimental sound, whatever you're experimenting on, is what ends up becoming the most popular song, like, of this time.
Yeah, and I was just having a conversation with somebody at a bar last night about, he's like a rapper, and he's like, oh, I see all these people who I kind of want to, like, emulate a little bit, because it's very easy for us to see somebody and be like, oh, well, if I do that,
then I'm going to get popular.
And then what I was trying to tell him is, like, these people that, especially, like, the whole generation of, like, SoundCloud rappers, is, like, the windows for that being popular is really small.
Super.
So, like, say you have a cap of, like, 4 years where this is possible, that sound, because it's going to evolve in, like, 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're trying to hop on what they're doing 2 years into the sound, you only have 2 years. And then if you're trying to get on from there, you've only got like maybe a year if you get on, and then, you did all that work and your sound is, it's not popping anymore.
And at the same time too, like if an artist just gravitates toward a particular sound that's popping right now, like you're really only riding the wave and you're not necessarily solidifying something that is your own.
It's gonna last, and people are gonna be like, oh, I want to go, it's like people who do like cover rap. It's like, why would you ever go listen to a cover of a rap song? It's like, just go listen to the rap song. But it's like, why would you listen to an artist who's doing the exact same shit as somebody else, but just like at a lesser version? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to be like, I'm going to be like this guy, but like a little bit worse,
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Because even like the Blueface thing, right?
Yeah.
Like now you have a whole bunch of other people.
You got all these people who are like, oh, I'll just like, not even try to rap on beat. And it's like, okay, but now we all know you're emulating Blueface. And
exactly.
Like, your lane is going to be almost smaller, because I don't know how long people can tolerate rapping off beat.
Well, I was actually watching this blog post from Wendy Day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and she was saying that the best way for an artist to really become themselves is to not listen to anything.
Yeah, and that's like, well, I don't want to say that I haven't been listening to anything, but I've been trying to listen to, especially since I've been on tour, is just like, we have these long car rides, so I'm like, I want to put on all this music that I would never listen to if I was. So I'm putting on like punk rock, like reggae, jazz, all this stuff to just be like, not trying to like influence myself, but just see if it like kind of seeps into my brain a little bit. So that's been like my thing I'm trying to challenge myself to do. Is just
because you never know. The next time you end up being in a session, you might just hear like one little reggae sound and be like, "Yo, let's
or
tap
you might
into
have
that
like
a
different melody." And that's what I like. I talk to a lot of people about just like how cool it is to collaborate with people, because when you present a song idea to somebody, especially like if you're like, oh, what about these chords? Everybody who's working on that song is going to come up with an initial different melody.
Yeah.
So it's like if I get stuck doing the same melodies over and over because I listen to the same music and I hear the same, like the runs and all that stuff, it's like I would much rather listen to a bunch of different things and then be able to come in with like a much more unique first idea for people.
So let me ask you this. When you are creating a song like Exoskeleton or Bounty, right, do you have other people helping you, let's say, produce the record, or is it all just you?
Those two I had my friend Doug Schott help produce. But the way it usually goes about is I'll come in with the song. So like those... Exoskeleton, not as much, but Bounty sounded a lot different when I first brought it in.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of just like reworked it we were like, look, what are the parts that are really working and what are the parts that are not? And I think like from where I started, we pitched the entire song up like a half note or something.
Oh, wow.
Or a half step, yeah. So it was like, if I were to play the original, it's like you would understand like where it came from, but it sounds very different.
Yeah.
Exoskeleton was like, I mostly just like came to him and was like, what are the finishing touches we need to add to this?
Yeah.
And we just switched a few things around.
I guess the question that like I'm really getting to is going back to our point prior to that is like how many voices do you have that kind of like influence you to tell you like this is like something that's big, like this is a song that we should really be putting out?
It's really only Doug at this point. Shout out Doug if you ever watch this.
Doug, you better watch this.
Yeah,
shit.
You better, man. But yeah, it's at the very beginning. I think even when I was just doing Exoskeleton, it was really just me. And there are times when that's really cool, and you're like, oh, I'm doing this myself. I can do whatever. But then there are times when it's good to have somebody reassure you and be like, look, you're on the right path. You're doing the right sound, whatever. And yeah, so I mean, like I try to start all my records by myself and just be like, I'm gonna come up with the initial idea, and then we can rework it to make it more, this is the one type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like to just be like, I'm gonna come up with whatever I want to make. I'm not gonna be like, I want to make this type of song or this type of song. Whatever I'm feeling at that moment is what I want to start with.
I like that.
Yeah, and then it can branch off and become whatever, but at the beginning I want it to be just like all me.
Just all you, and then just see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
That's what's up. So, who are you on tour with again?
I'm on tour with Spose and the Humans Band. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Spose...
See, it's different because I interview a lot of like hip-hop and R&B people.
So, the only way you would know Spose is if you heard the song I'm Awesome. I'm awesome, dude. No, you're not. Don't lie. I'm awesome. Riding around in my mom's ride.
Out, man.
So his band is actually a mix of a couple different bands. One is like a Maine-based band, Rustic Overtones. But yeah, it's incredible. He's like one of the hardest working rappers I've ever met in my entire life, and he brought this full band out, and they learned all of his songs. They turned all of his beats into full backing band things, and it's incredible to watch every night.
I gotta check them out then.
Yeah.
So how do you end up linking with Spose then to be on this tour?
So we are from the same state,
which is
Maine. So when you're from Maine and you do music, there's only a few of you.
Yeah.
And so you very quickly, everybody keeps tabs on everybody else. So you very quickly find out like who's actually worth working with and who's kind of just fucking around.
I love your verbiage on that. By the way,
it's
who's actually worth working with?
Whose name should I keep track of versus who's just having fun and wilding out and whatever. So we started working on a couple songs, and I've always just been like inspired by the fact that he got signed to Universal like probably 10 years ago or something for that song that I just mentioned, and got dropped like a couple months later. And he maintained a big enough fan base that he was able to take that single and make 10 plus albums out of it and keep a fan base enough to pay for his entire life. He doesn't have to work a job, And like that's my biggest inspiration is like what I want out of this is like, obviously the love of the music, but also like I don't need to I don't need to ball out. I don't need to flex. I just want to have like financial stability.
Yeah.
And not have to work a day job. And so just watching him be able to take that fan base that he got from his one hit song and make it last 10 plus years to the point where he can come out to LA and have people buy tickets to his show is like
to probably just hear that one song alone.
Yeah. But those people heard that one song and then they fell in love with
the rest
everything he did because
sure.
he went so hard and he was like, I'm not just gonna have that one little moment of fame and then be like whatever. He was like, I'm gonna make album after album after album and keep having these people fuck with me.
Well, that's the hardest thing that I feel like any sole person or media company has to do is just maintenance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I was just listening to this podcast about Netflix.
Yeah.
And they were saying their biggest problem is really just going to be maintenance. Like, how long can they maintain making these dope-ass, like, films and shorts and, like, Netflix series?
Yeah.
Like, how, like, you know what I mean?
How long can you do it at that rate and how fast they're turning out this content? And it sucks because once you start doing it for a little while, people expect it of you.
Yeah.
That's why I get so scared for people who are like, I'm dropping a new song every week. I'm like, damn, when you get burnt out, people are going to be like, where's the new... Like,
dude,
we were fucking with you
I've
'cause
seen
you're
artists
dropping...
I've seen artists who they had like a 365-year plan of just dropping a song every day.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, but the one you put out next week is going to sound like the one that you just dropped.
It's like, it should always be quality over quantity. So I think, stuff like that where Netflix has, like, gotten to this point where people, like, oh, where's the next season? Where's the next show, And especially because everybody in, like, 2019, our fucking attention spans are so low.
They're, like, this small.
Yeah, so it's like, even songs nowadays are, like, a minute 30. Like, it's like, like Panini is, like, one of my favorite songs right now, and it's, like, a minute 55, I think. And I'm like, I'll just keep running it over and over again.
Isn't it kind of crazy how I will say back then because we're in the same age range?
Yeah.
But like, isn't it crazy how back then we could listen to like an entire 5-minute, 6-minute song and we could actually just sit there and enjoy it.
I still make that shit because I like still am like, oh yeah, people can listen to this, and then like I'll play it for people and they're like, you got to cut like 2 minutes out of that, and I'm like, but the whole thing is so important to me, and they're like, no, like you got to make it under 3 minutes or people just won't finish it.
It's nuts.
It's crazy that you can go on like Spotify and you can see how long people list, like Spotify for artists or whatever, and you can see how long people actually listen to the songs, the average length, and it's like it's usually less than the song. It's usually like a minute 30.
Where's yours? Like, let's say an average for Exoskeletons.
I mean, mine probably gets through just because I only have 2 songs, but if you're like listening to somebody's full album, it's usually like a minute 30, and then they're like, next one.
So let me ask you this: does that take out the fun of being an artist since people's attention spans are so much shorter?
It all depends on what, like, the length of the trajectory and how long you want it to take. If you're comfortable having it take 10, 20 years to get to a point where you have a sustainable fan base, I would say that you can, have more fun and take more risks and do that stuff. But if you're like, look, I want this to work and I want it to work faster, it does kind of become a little more like calculated and formulaic to the point where some of the stuff you're like, I don't want to, do this type of beat, or I don't want to, have to put 808s in there right there to make people go, oh yeah. But it's like, sometimes you have to think about those things. If you're like, look, I know that this song will undeniably do better, streaming-wise, people will fuck with it more than my, 10-minute ballad where I start screaming and then I start throwing things around my room and I record it. Like, people, that might be more fun for me, but people are not going to listen to it. And at the end of the day, every artist wants people to listen to their music.
Yeah.
A lot of people will be like, oh, I'm in it for the art. And I'm like, yeah, everybody's in it for the art, and that's how you get into it. But at the end of the day, if you want it to be sustained and you want to be able to do it to the point where you don't have to go to your 9 to 5 and then come back and be burnt out, like, you got to put some sort of, marketability to it.
Yeah, and also the greatest art, if your real big concern is like being an artist, the greatest art actually divides 2 audiences.
It does, yeah. It's like they either love it or they hate it.
Yeah,
and,
but if people are just indifferent and don't even know about it, then it's like, did you really make something artistic?
Yeah, or is it just like you just threw out what you thought would be cool? and it didn't
Yeah.
hit. Yeah.
Like, I would rather listen to a song and just be like, it's kind of shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because at least I can put that in my...
Yeah.
I have somewhere to put it. I can put it
right?
in my shit pile.
Instead of like, oh, like this is just like every time I pull up the Spotify like top hits or something, I'm like, all these songs sound the same, and I'm just so indifferent to all of them.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to turn it off because honestly, I'm like too lazy to press the button. But it's like I would turn it off, but also I don't mind it being in the background. Like it's just so in the middle, and like props to them for hitting that right in the middle. But yeah, I think like real art is something that you want it to have that love or hate reaction.
Exactly. I think you also need some patience with that too.
Yeah, I had I don't know if you guys...
I've been seeing that the entire time, and I was waiting until I could bring it up.
Yeah, I have to look at that every goddamn day because it's just like when you get into this stuff, especially early on, it's like every little setback is just like, God damn, like I know that I can do this, but you know.
Well, what inspired you to put patience on your left forearm?
Left or right, it wasn't, a thing. But I wanted it to be something where, I see it all the time. I didn't want it to be like on my leg or something or whatever. Like I wanted to be able to like, because I have so many moments in every day where it's like, God damn, if people just knew what I'm capable of. It's like an evil villain, like if they knew what I'm capable of. But you just got to be like, look, this stuff takes time. And my dad will always text me stuff like, blah, 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 so-and-so band took 10 years before their first song, hit. Like, you just got to keep going. And I'm like, I know. And there's only so much people can say of, like, you just got to keep working at it because everybody knows that. But in your head, you're like, it's taking too long.
Yeah, exactly. Back to the short attention spans that we all have.
Right? Yeah, it goes to, like, your career, and you're like... and especially nowadays when we see all these people who are, like, 18, 19, and they're, like, signed to multi-million-dollar deals, it doesn't even matter whatever, like, career path it's in. All these, like, people who are so big at such a young age, you're like, well, I must be a failure because I'm older than them, and I haven't made it. You know?
I mean, I don't think there's any particular age for you to reach success.
Yeah, and that's
even
the thing.
Like even Nipsey Hussle, for example, he didn't get Grammy nominated till he was 35.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Nip.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, and it's like you always see those things and you're like, oh, I need to remember that, but it's hard in the moment when you're like, God damn, this person is like 17 and they just hit the Billboard like 6 times, and you're like, oh, I'm 23, I might as well just like. Jump off a cliff or something.
God damn it, I'm 5 years older than this kid,
like,
and they're
so
like
old. Yeah, it's like whenever I watch the NBA and I see like Jason Tatum is like,
dude,
he's only 20, and I'm like, I'm 23, and that kid's like,
It's the craziest thing. I remember this one moment in particular. As soon as we hit 19, like one of my friends was like, "Yo, we're at that age where the people entering the NBA are younger than us."
Yeah, are younger than us, and it's like they got like millions of dollars, and they're like celebrities, and you're like, "Oh, I'm just watching you on my TV."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird that like, especially just celebrity culture in general, that we all want to be.
But we even think about why. Let's take NBA players, for example, like why they're so successful at such a young age, and it's because they were religiously playing basketball throughout maybe like at least life. 10 years just playing.
Probably more, yeah.
That's why even people like Billie Eilish, for example, she's been making music since she was young.
Little
and she's
kid,
like, what, 18?
And you're like, okay, so that, yeah, I think that's what people really need to think more about is not like, oh, they're younger than me, but how much more time have they had doing it?
Did they put in their 10,000 hours to it?
It's like, oh, like I just mentioned, like I've been doing it for 5 years. If like Billie Eilish has been doing it for 10 years, then like, oh, I've got 5 more years to get to that level.
Mm-hmm.
And you shouldn't even look at it like that. It's like everybody's got their own trajectory, but...
Well, it looks like there's a correlation of like the 10-year span between Nipsey
Hussle and Billie Eilish. I mean, you gotta figure... All right,
everybody, it'll take 10 years.
If you do something for 10 years, you gotta figure something is gonna happen.
Yeah.
You're gonna get to some level where you're making at least some money and some people care about it. No matter what it is. You could be like, changing tires for 10 years, and eventually people are gonna be like, you're pretty damn good at changing tires.
Yeah,
and
you're
like, yeah, I've done it for 10 years.
That shit.
So come work for me. Like, it's got to happen. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't want to keep doing this if there was no belief in that.
Yeah, man. Well, I totally believe in your music, honestly.
Thank you, man.
When I'm listening to it, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I can kind of just, like, sit back, whereas hip hop makes me want to like,
Yeah. Get real,
just get real funky and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah.
But like I think you add like a really good breath of fresh air to this experimental vibey,
Well, thank you.
Vibey genre.
I try to, and I try to, I've never been able to, especially like lyrically, I've never been able to allow myself to talk about things that aren't real to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one thing that I like do have going for me is like I'll never be like my bitches are better than yours because I'll be like no, like my girlfriend, I love her, but I don't have bitches, So it's like I can't. I would just laugh into the mic if I started doing that.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I can't.
I'm sure you have at least one song like
I got
that.
some
just
reckless
like all the way
stuff where
tucked in
I'm
the
like,
vault.
I'll just like I'll flex the pen game for a little bit, but it's hard to put that out, and then people are like, put it on, and they're listening to the lyrics, and they're like, but I know you, and
that's not you, bro.
You drive a
That's
Nissan, you don't drive a Lamborghini.
What's the most difficult part of you being a singer-songwriter as of right now?
What people expect, especially on this tour, it's like what people expect from you when they don't know who you are, and like people look at me and they're like, I have no idea what to expect from, and I have like on my Facebook page, it's like all these people have seen me were like, gotta admit, didn't expect to hear that voice out of you, and I'm like, yeah, okay, like I can't tell if it's a compliment or not, but yeah, I think it's just like trying to just battle with people's expectations of you, and like not even that, but just like what they think that you're going to be less than you hope to be. People always like have lower expectations for everybody.
What was what was like the expectation of you prior to hopping on stage? Did people think you were just like gonna hop on with a guitar?
I get that a lot.
Oh,
They're
really?
like, I gotta be honest. I thought you'd have a guitar with you, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't. But and especially on this tour, we have some I don't want to say funny local openers, but they're like very avant-garde and out there. So like in all the shows we have like locals. So we'll have that, and then I'll go on after, and they'll kind of. It's like subconscious. They'll be expecting a little bit more of whatever that was, and then I come in and like it's very different, and they're like, "Oh, wait, what?"
Yeah.
It's almost like they're kind of like lulled into sleep with like they're like just expecting everything because nobody goes to shows for the opener. So it's like, and I always go out there and I'm like, my mindset is like, I have to prove myself to you. I'm not here just like for fun, and I'm not here like because you guys are fucking with me. I have to make you fuck with me. So. Like people usually expect whatever they saw before, and and especially it's weird because I'm touring with like a rapper, and I'm not really like a rapper. So
yeah, because then you're basically challenging to acquire a rap fan base.
Yeah, and
damn, that sounds hella hard.
I'm gonna be honest, it's been really good so far.
Okay.
People come for one thing, and I think I'm trying to make music that's so universal that you're not like, oh, well, I only listen to this genre. It's like I want to make stuff that's like, oh, I like the melody, and I like the lyrics, and I like the beat, and it doesn't matter what genre you would call it. It's like, I'm probably never going to appeal to the people that are like, I only like bars. Like, you don't even need a beat. I just listen to acapellas. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to appeal to you, but I don't think a lot of people are going to appeal to you at all.
Not really.
And some of those people are at these shows, because like, Spose is like a very hard rapper. He's not hard, but like he raps really well. So it's like people come and they love, to hear the raps, and I'm like, I'll provide a little something
yeah, you
less.
kind of like ease them into the raps.
I'm like, there's bars hidden in here. If you listen to the words, like I sing it, but like there's still bars.
He said, "Oh hell yeah," because basically he has a show within an hour. He needs to get the fuck up out of here.
I was like a little stressed, and I always underestimate LA traffic. So
yeah, it's different, man.
It is.
So Ben, like, you have those 2 singles out right now,
Yeah.
Exoskeleton and also Bounty. Are they attached to a project, or are you just going to keep on releasing singles throughout the rest of the year?
Throughout the year, it's going to be singles. I have like a lot of stuff ready for an album, but it's all about just when timing wise. You know, I always think about like you don't want to. It's like the idea of like if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around to hear it, doesn't make a sound. It's like you don't want to drop big projects that you put your like heart and soul into on deaf ears. And you know, like especially if you don't have that fan base yet, and people, you know, it's just demoralizing when you put in all this work and like 6 people are like, "Oh, I listened to it. It was okay."
Yeah.
And then you're like, "Damn, man, like I just put a year of my life into that I'll never get back."
And only 6 people said it was
yeah,
okay.
You know, like it's just like, "Oh, you know." And you can be like, "Oh, but the music is amazing." But, you know, there's so many musicians who are amazing that just because they don't market themselves well will never be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so yeah, that's my focus right now is like singles until I have a point where people are like, you know, I want to hear an album from this guy.
Well, I hope this tour really helps you out. I hope this interview really helps you out,
I
too,
hope
man.
so, too. You know, I'm excited. I'm excited.
And, you know, I think with the way you're thinking and with the way your music sounds, I think you'll be okay, man.
I hope so.
Just okay.
Yeah,
you know,
just
just
okay.
okay.
6 people will say I'll be okay.
6 people will say you're okay
Yeah,
by
yeah.
the end of next year.
Yeah, right? I'm at 3 right now. I got to double it.
Bensbeendead. Where can everybody find you, man?
Spotify, iTunes, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at Bensbeendead. Yeah.
Amazing name.
Yeah.
One of a kind name.
Yeah, because now when you search it, you find me. You don't
Yeah.
find, you know, 800 other me's.
Oh, man. Bensbeendead, everybody. I'm Nico Blitz. This is The Lunch Table, and we out, everybody. Yay!